Well, Razorback fans, you got another big commitment in basketball, and this one is a doozy. So let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of the John Neighbors Show, which you can catch every weekday afternoon from 4 to 6 on Natty State Sports and nattystatesports.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more, where right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose with FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful week so far, as it is officially Friday, so excitement seems to surround everybody, and should for a lot of different reasons, especially if you're a Razorback basketball fan, because Arkansas was able to get a big commitment, if not their biggest commitment, or one of them, and it happens to be Boogie Fland, who is a McDonald's All-American, and John Calipari continues to do the work. And honestly, at the time of the recording of this podcast, there may have already been somebody else that committed, just to be honest, because it's going to be moving that fast. But you still have a few things that are going for Arkansas's favor right now that you should be excited about. And this is the latest one. He's 6'2", 170-pound guard out of White Plains, New York. He's a 5-star prospect. This is according to both ESPN and Rivals. He is the number 18 overall player in the country, a number 2 combo guard, a number 3 player in the state of New York. Now, he initially had committed to Calipari on October 20th, 2023. He chose Kentucky over Alabama, UConn, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, North Carolina, and St. John's. But once, of course, Calipari decided to take his talents to Fayetteville, he decided to reopen his recruitment. So he was in the McDonald's All-American game. He scored 17 points, had 3 three-pointers, and a go-ahead basket in the final minute, along with 5 rebounds and 3 assists. He was also named to the 2024 Nike Hoops Summit team, participating in the prestigious Jordan Brand Classic earlier in the month, and has a gold medal on his resume for the Team USA on the under-17 national team in Spain in 2022. I'm still going through all the accolades, folks. As a senior at Archbishop, where he, of course, was a student there, he averaged 19.3 points, 6.6 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 2.4 steals per game. This is all according to nattystatesports.com, by the way. And here's what 24/7 Sports had to say from Adam Finkelstein, who's a scout. He says, Fland is a skilled guard whose biggest asset is his ability to shoot the basketball. Like few other players in high school basketball, he has an ability to heat up and start making tough shots from long range. However, his willingness to settle for those tough shots can impact his efficiency. The 30% he shot from behind the three-point line in the EYBL came in direct correlation to his shot selection, since he's been undoubtedly a better shooter since those numbers indicated. While Fland is young for his grade, because he is young, he remains undersized with a slider natural build. But deceptively long arms. His lack of strength can sometimes limit his ability to play through a contact in the lane, but he has good range on his floater and is adept at getting to the free throw line. Fland has spent most of his high school career playing off the ball, but has developed into a reliable secondary ball handler who has become increasingly capable of initiating offense with the ball in his hands, and he has pace with the ball, both in the floor and coming off of ball screens, a good left hand, and has definitely gotten better and tighter with his handles over the years. Defensively, Fland has long arms, quick hands, and feet also to be effective. He defends with a playmaking mindset that leads to a high steal rate of 1.7 per game and has an untapped potential as someone who can pick up and pressure the ball away from the basket. Overall, Fland is a skilled shooter who bases his game off the ability to make tough shots right now. But as he continues to build up his body and learns to impact the games in other ways, he's only going to become more efficient. So there you have it. This wasn't necessarily a surprise of how things were going to go. I know that people have become impatient when it comes to waiting on players to commit for Arkansas. And, of course, Carter Knox was a big get, and we discussed that earlier in the week. But the Boogie Fland commitment is massive. I mean, we're talking about a McDonald's All-American and a guy that is an NBA one-and-done caliber player, and he's a guard. Arkansas had been working on the size dudes, but he is a guard. And once again, it's only going to get better from here. We know that this week has been crucial with the visits that Arkansas has been having some of these players on. We know that there's some big-time transfers that are in the mix that are also on official visits to the University of Arkansas. Calipari and his staff, even though there's only been one officially announced with Kenny Payne, but he's got some others working. They're constantly trying to get after it and trying to make it to where Arkansas is going to be set up for having these guys and being a part of the team. And again, it's just getting started. But the Boogie Fland one, again, is one of the ones that I was most excited about. For one, because it's an awesome name of Boogie Fland. But the fact that he's just the type of guard that you want. He's really good defensively. As I just read off there, he's able to score in different ways. And his accolades, I mean, the fact that he's been a part of so many different major elements, whether it's a big-time EYBL or whether it's in winning the gold medal in the under-17 deal, the accolades just pile up. So as you continue to see the type of players that Calipari is getting, as you continue to see the roster building, you're seeing exactly the impact of Cal and what he can do as a recruiter. Arkansas could always have different players to come into the mix and players to be a part of the team and everything. Like that's obvious. But what Cal is doing is exactly what you've been hoping and wanting him to do. I think that with the amount of talent that's going to be on this team, stupid talent that's going to be on this team, it could be one of the more memorable seasons so far for the Razorback basketball team. I'm not just talking about competing for a national championship. I'm just talking about in all walks of life. But you got to just let Cal cook. Let him keep doing his thing. And hopefully it'll just keep happening the way that it's supposed to happen. We'll talk about that roster and that talent and how it's all developing here in just a second. But, folks, I got to tell you, listen, I know that we've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard's not looking good. You're feeling low. Not sure if you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, time to pull off some bank heist, and time to take as much money of my friends as possible. That's right. The smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go, lets you compete with your friends for the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies, and with also so much more to do, like play countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, and charge other players rent for the iconic properties that you own. You can even work with your friends to crack open the community chest and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, download the Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or on Google Play. And I'm also going to tell you about our friends over at Gametime. We know that Gametime is the best app when it comes to buying all tickets for all the events that you're going to want to go to, whether it's Major League Baseball, whether it's college baseball, whether it's any of the concerts and shows that you may want to see, theater, comedy, they have it all. So you can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, comedies, and theaters and everything. So when you're thinking about when you're trying to buy tickets, it can be a hassle for some of you, and some of it is the last minute. Some of you, maybe you're waiting to see when you can get the best deal. Maybe you're waiting to see if you can even go. Maybe you're hoping that the tickets drop down. Well, that's the greatest thing about Gametime app is that when you're waiting for that last minute, you're going to be rewarded for it because you can save up to 60% off with those last-minute ticket buys. They have the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off by downloading the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. We talk about the talent roster and the level that the Razorbacks are trying to get on this Calipari coach team in his first year. And it's pretty incredible to think about not only the guy like Boogie Fland that they've added, and again, by the time you're hearing this podcast, they may have already added some more. But it's amazing to see the type of players that they're bringing in. they're still set to have the big man from Tennessee, Jonas Adu. They're set for a visit on him. He's 6'11", 240 pounds. And he was a starter on a team that was really close to the Final Four, made to the Elite Eight. 11 points per game, 52% from the field, 7.5 rebounds, almost 2 block shots a game, and had an assist a game. He started every single game for the Volunteers last year. How about also they're set to host Brandon Garrison, the big man from Oklahoma State. So according to United States Sports on Sunday is when he's going to be visiting. He's 6'11", 245 pounds. It's not bad. He's the number 16 overall transfer, the number 5 center in the portal, according to On3. He's also taken visits to Oklahoma and Texas, announcing his intention to enter in the portal the day it opened. He averaged 7.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 15 blocks in 22.6 minutes per game as a full-time starter as a true freshman for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. He also had a shooting percentage of 57% from the field and connected 65% from the charity stripe. Probably a little better on that. And that's just the one of many. Again, if you're trying to find all the information on it, go to UnitedStatesSports.com and check out the big board that Curtis and Scotty have put together, because they are wrecking shop. But still, it's just amazing to see the amount of players that Arkansas is getting in the mix on. Not only true freshmen and guys that may be one and done and get into the NBA and everything, but you're talking about big-time transfers like Billy Richmond. Like Billy Richmond, I believe, is going to be at Arkansas. Or he's a high school target, but he's an incredible player. He's the number 24 player in the country. 6'6", 200 pounds. Like, he's awesome. And then, DJ Wagner's still into the mix, the transfer from Kentucky. How about Adu Thero from Kentucky, still into the mix. He might be one to watch for. John L. Davis is the other one I know people have been really excited about. I think he's going to be a Hog. I really do. What's crazy about him is that he averaged 18 points per game, 6.3 rebounds a game, 3 assists, shot 44% from three-point land. And he was the AAC Player of the Year, and he's the number 1 player in the transfer portal. And I think he's going to end up at Arkansas. The roster just continues to build, and you continue to hear about these guys and who they're taking visits with and how amazing that they are. And it's hard. It's truly hard not to get too excited and not to feel too good about what they got going on. But, how can you not? How can you not? And the thing is what we're going to see at the end of the day, this is going to be a roster. It's going to be filled with the most NBA talent, NBA caliber talent that Arkansas has ever had. You think about Arkansas just a few years ago, they had Nick Smith, Anthony Black, and Jordan Walsh, who were all first-round picks, one-and-done players, all of them. Then you think back to, the day, I believe, of the big three with Todd Day, Lee Mayberry, Oliver Miller. They all got drafted. I think Ron Hury was a draft pick. Like, you've had some teams that had some really high-end NBA talent. That was just for 1 year. You could add in, the next year when players still on those teams were drafted, whatever it may be. But what is crazy, what is absolutely insane, is that you have so much going for you right now. You're talking about some of the most amazing talent to ever be in the mix for what's been going on in the current landscape of basketball and college basketball in general. This is exactly what you want to have. And Arkansas could have potentially 6 NBA draft picks, 7 NBA draft picks on this roster. Potentially. That just doesn't happen very often. So I'm predicting that this is just getting started. You're going to have a lot more to be excited about. You're having a lot more to get pumped up about and some players to watch, because players want to play with other great players, and Arkansas is going to have plenty, and I mean plenty, of great players to play with Cal and everything. So it's going to be awesome. But we will get to some baseball news, folks, because we definitely do have to talk about that here in just a second. But I got to talk about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, baseball. All of it's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every single game. Because right now, new customers get $150 back in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks and all on. That is on an app that is safe and secure and super easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. It's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Baseball news, and I don't want to make it too big of a deal, but it is a little bit worrisome, as Mason Molina, who has been the starter, one of the weekend starters all season long for the Razorbacks, originally was a Sunday starter, then moved to the Saturday starter, has been extremely efficient. Well, he's going to be missing the series this weekend against Florida. He twisted his right ankle during a recent workout, and he's been really just the guy ever since the very beginning. Van Horn said, quote, we're going to let him give this week off to let him heal. We could probably put him on the roster and we could probably pitch him. He's probably 90%, but we want to make sure that he's next week, that he's going forward and he's going to be good to go. So yeah, like you hear that and it's like, okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Well, Arkansas's got so much depth in the pitching rotation that it's just stupid. It's great. It's a great problem to have. And so obviously, I want to have Mason Molina healthy. You all want to have Mason Molina healthy. But if it's not worth the risk, then let somebody else do it. Let somebody else take care of it. But I am curious because we know that Brady Tygert's going to be now the Saturday starter. So if that's the case, they haven't announced a Sunday. I think it's going to be crucial and pivotal as far as what happens in these first two games as to how Dave Van Horn in Arkansas handles the pitching situation. They're going to have Hagen Smith. So if Arkansas is able to win game one and game two, they become a lot more flexible of what they want to do in game three. They may get some guys who need some experience in there. They may go with somebody that by committee, I guess, when it comes to a few innings here, a few innings there, going along that way. I mean, there's a lot of different routes that they could go. Or they could end up being in a situation where they split the first two games and they have the rubber match on Sunday, and then it's like, oh crap, let's make sure we pitch our best guy out there because we need this SEC series. You got to win all your series. We all know that. And I'm not saying Arkansas would mail it in and not want to care about winning game three if they won game 1 and 2, but you got to look at the longevity. You got to play the long game. You got to make sure your guys are healthy. And so I think that's what Dave Van Horn's situation is going to be, is just approaching it in that regard and in that perspective. But still, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. I hated to see that about Molina. He's been awesome this year, and I think he'll be ready to go. But, you think about this. You got this series against Florida. Then you go on the road to A&M, who is arguably, I don't think it's arguably, they're number one right now. They are one of the very few best teams in the country. You're one of them too, but they are nasty. And then you get a home series against Mississippi State. It's always tough. And then you go on the road to play Kentucky, which is surprisingly one of the best teams. So you really got a tough stretch here. And just say that, hey, you got to win your home series. That's what it comes down to. You got to win your home series, but you also got to take care of business, because those two teams in Kentucky and A&M, those are going to come down to who wins the SEC. So you got to make sure you're as fully healthy for those games as humanly possible. So we'll see, though. We'll see. Dave Van Horn's always done a great job. They've done a great job managing. You got to get the offense continuing to get going too, but I think it's going to be fine. We'll see how the season plays out, and also this weekend. But appreciate everybody listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Neighbor Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.